What is going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q from Retro Q Gamer back in effect as always, and here we are with our lovely little 39th episode of our Quack Experimental Podcast. Not too much to talk about, so I am going to beef these ones up a little bit, or that's hopefully how it's going to go. So, anyhow, let's rock and roll. First off, we have some Platinum Games news. Not so much, oh my god, Platinum Games announced a new game, or they have a big update on one of their games. No. We have some fun stuff. Because Legendary, I really stress that as sarcasm, because some people just don't understand sarcasm. These people. But anyway, Legendary game designer I always get his name wrong. Hideki Kamiya. I always call him Kamiyama. I don't even remember. But anyway, Legendary designer Hideki Kamiya. Well, he kind of took a dump all over those Switch owners at the moment. And of course, we all know the Switch owners are notoriously fanboy towards him. Simply because he's one of the few people that actually made games for their console. Specifically the Wii U, and he finally went and made a couple of other games and all. Although I should really only say is only kind of doing one game for the Switch, because the rest of them so far at least are... Oh no, he did Astral Chain as well. But anyway, there's a few games that were made. One specifically for the Wii U, and then of course one or two coming for the Switch with the likes of Bayonetta 3 and Astral Chain. But yeah, so he took a shit all over these fanboys. Because he thinks, on record, correctly I might add, the Switch operating system and main menu is a piece of crap. All the shitty gigantic icons and then everything else is just dumped off in all software. And he's dead right. He's dead right. The OS, the features, or lack of which I should say, for the Nintendo Switch operating system are absolute bottom tier Gilbert-esque dirt. Absolute shite. How this stuff gets pushed out in 2017, let alone 2020, is beyond me. Let's face it, the PlayStation 3, a notoriously bad operating system on their console, that ended up better. The Wii U, for the most part at least anyway, for a lot of its features and functionality, had more. The fucking 3DS had even more. And here we are, approaching the 3-year anniversary, and still nothing. Now, what's going to be very, very fun about this whole situation, it only happened just the other day, but I want to sit back and watch as the Switch owner lose their fucking mind. Because they pretend to love this guy in his games, even though they don't get some of his bigger, higher praise games. Because let's face it, I've played Bayonetta 1 in its best possible form on the PC, and that game is shite. Everyone said to me, it's like, Q, you love Devil May Cry, you have to play Bayonetta, you will love it. You didn't really like Devil May Cry 2, you didn't play 3, you will love Bayonetta. I played Bayonetta and I was fucking bored to tears. I was falling asleep, I was yawning consistently. This game was so fucking boring to me. When I was playing Bayonetta 1, I could basically only stomach one chapter at a time. There were maybe one or two instances where I managed to do a whole whopping 2 chapters before I had to turn the game off because I could stomach so little of it It was just bad overall. I'm sure Bayonetta 2 is more of the same, albeit at a lower frame rate and resolution. But I don't even know. And of course, everything else Platinum Games has done is basically dirt. Maybe Platinum Games just don't appeal to me. Because when you look at all their stuff that everyone praises and all, I just don't enjoy it. Maybe that's all it is. I like the genre, but their style and their games just don't appeal to me. Because between pretty much everything involved with Platinum Games since they became Platinum Games, I don't think there's a single game that they made that I enjoy. It's just weird. But anyway, back to my point on here as well. Because let's see if the Switch's fanboys, or the Switch fanboys that fanboy behind Hideki, well, let's see if they change their tune now that he's shitting all over them because they've been slighted by him for telling the truth. Even though they'll never get near. Because, well, Jesus, could you imagine a Switch trying to run near? Woo lad. That is absolutely Woo lad. That's all I can say. But moving on to something equally as funny, although this one is more so, well, it's still just about as funny. It's more so disheartening and disappointing. And basically every other negative adjective you can think of, starting with the word D. Dejected, dejecting, we said disappointed, disgusting, exasperating as it starts with an E. Fuck it, I don't know. But you get my point. WWE 2K20. One of the worst made and worst developed and worst created games in history. Along the lines of Fallout 76 tier of bad. Although this one seems to actually be worse. Because, no, you know what? I can't say which one is worse. Because of everything I've seen for both of them, they're both equally first place. Joint tag team co-intercontinental champions. See what I did? There's a reference that many of you old fans will get. But, yeah, they're both slugging it out, duking it out for first place for possibly one of the worst developed and glitchiest games ever. But anyway, in the case of WWE 2K20, it has gotten worse. Because not only was everything existing about this game a huge slight against the gaming industry and what is probably wrestling game fans, considering they haven't had a good one since WWF No Mercy on the N64. But starting on January 1st, 2020, WWE 2K20 on any platform wouldn't work properly. Now, you might be wondering, Q, the game never worked properly anyway, which you're absolutely correct. But no, this one worked even less. If that's possible. Because at least in the other ones, as broken as it was, and as fucked up as everything was, you could have a match. You could play the game. For WWE 2K20, starting in the year 2020, which is kind of poetic within itself, when you boot the game up, and you get to the main menu, upon selecting any single mode that you want to play, and when I say single, I don't mean it has to be like a one-on-one. I'm talking any option, any mode. The game would hard crash every single time. Now, we all know what this is. You might remember, back in the year 2000, we had the whole Y2K thing. And of course, this being 2020, it would be the second proper extension of it, because we'd have 2010 as well being some type of extension, and 2020 as well. But no, you would not be correct in assuming it's something to do with that, because we all know this is not down to something like that. This is not down to something along the lines of, developer incompetence, rushed game, failures, whoever it is. No, this is down to one specific thing. In fact, this is down to one specific person and 3 specific, I wouldn't say acronyms, but yeah, you get it. Because we have Y2J. Obviously is clearly the problem. All this Jericho is doing what he's doing straight from Japan, beating the shit out of Tanahashi, doing whatever he does, being Le Champion, and he is putting the walls of Jericho, the Lion Tamer, the whatever you want to call it, the Lion Salt, the Code Red. No, did he do a Code Red? No, Code Breaker, Judas Effect, whatever he does with his list, with his lexicon of Le Champion, with a little bit of the bubbly, he is keeping this piece of shit game away from everybody. He's healing it up. All he does. Now, funnily enough, until this was fixed, I don't know if it's already fixed or not, because this was from a few days ago, and frankly, I didn't care enough to keep checking on it. But if it's not fixed in the meantime, if there is no patch for it, you can turn the date back on your platform, be it your Xbox One or your PS4 or whatever, and you can go back, set it to 2019, I was going to say 1919, 2019, and the game will work. But overall, to co-op something, I just want to say this applies to both WWE 2K20 and Fallout 76, but for the purposes of this one, we're just going to put it in for WWE 2K20 because of the industry it's in and the fact that it fits in. So if you'll excuse me, microphone, I just want to let everyone know that this is the worst game that's ever been developed. But speaking of games that are being developed, I know, we're right at the start of 2020, so naturally they have to spread out all their announcements, all their details, all their reveals, all their whatever it is. We have big shows like CES coming up, although that's really only a hardware side of it. But hey, new PC hardware, maybe PS5 or Xbox news, we don't know yet. Could be something in there too. But then, of course, we've got stuff like E3, we've got Gamescom, Tokyo Game Show. The number goes on. There's all these types of ones. So naturally, they don't want to blow their wad straight away on January 1st and have nothing for the rest of the year. So they got to spread them out. But we have got a little bit to go off because lots of different companies, lots of different studios, lots of different publishers, lots of different everyone have been teasing stuff already for 2020. Now, of course, this is teasing of announcements, which kind of annoys me. I will say it doesn't annoy me as much of the announcement of announcements. Lots of companies are guilty of this. Microsoft, Sony, Bethesda, Atlas are one of the ones recently. But yeah, announcements of announcements are absolute bullshit. But hey, this is just teasing stuff. So far, we have a little bit of a list. You know, a lexicon of Le Champion, if you will. But we have a little bit of a list of some of the teases that we're in store for 2020. So far, we have along the lines of Shin Megami Tensei 5, which is finally fucking about to happen, hopefully, because we haven't properly heard about that game in like a year, if not more. And hell, it's been announced in 2017, and we've basically seen like 2 trailers or one little quick clip since then. It's bullshit. Another one, Bayonetta 3, also Platinum Games have come out and just said, hey, yeah, we're in full steam ahead mode for this. It's in full development. Look forward to something about it this year. I don't give a shit about Bayonetta, as we covered earlier, but yeah. Same with Metroid Prime 4, of course. That's gearing up for its big, useful thing as well. Hopefully it's like the first 2 games, and it's not like anything that came after that. But, well, we'll have to wait and see. I know it's probably going to be all over the place with the reboot and whatnot of development. But hey, we'll see. It couples in as well with something that Sony have been kind of teasing as well, because the Ape Escape account, well, similar to what they did last year, is putting out another little bit of a tease. They did a quick little one last year with just a single picture and a single tweet, and they're doing it again this year with the new Ape Escape account, or the same one, possibly teasing a new game, which is going to be the business. I would love Ape Escape on PS4 or PS5, and that would be the business. I love Ape Escape, and I would love another one, so I really hope something actually comes of that one too. Dragon Quest 11, Square Enix have come out and said Dragon Quest 12 even, in an interview, and they've listed off a bunch of other stuff too, and then they said, oh yeah, here's what we're working on, Bravely Default 2 is coming out, all this other stuff, Trials of Mana, blah blah blah, yada yada yada, Final Fantasy 7 remake, and we started work on Dragon Quest 12 last year, which I think is kind of funny, because it clearly just shows how much of an afterthought that Dragon Quest 11 was on Switch, when that was delegated to a small little port team, after it being a 2-year late release basically, and the fact that they had already started working on Dragon Quest 12 before they'd even released that. But still, Dragon Quest 12 is going to be the business, I hope. Dragon Quest 11 was fantastic, and I really hope this picks up in that way. Who knows, maybe it'll have Xbox/PC/PS5 visuals, and those other little port begging scum never get the game. Natsumi have also come out. They're the company that make Harvest Moon. You can take that as you want, because we know there's Harvest Moon and there's Marvelous and there's Natsumi and Story of Seasons and whatnot. But Natsumi have come out and said that they have lots of stuff planned for 2020 because they've had a decent amount of sales and everything is up basically from the previous year. And another one, which is basically a leak, or possibly a leak anyway because of a listing. I'll talk about it anyway just for a second, even if I'm never, ever going to play it. Assassin's Creed, because there's apparently a new Assassin's Creed. Of course there is, because, well, they had to take a year off because of Watch Dogs Legion. No, wait a minute. What was the big Ubisoft game last year? It can't have been an Assassin's Creed game last year. I don't know. They all just blend together because I just don't give a shit about them at this point, because they're Assassin's Creed. And the first game was great. The second game refined it, even though if Altair was much better than Ezio. But Dragon Quest, I'm reading my notes here. But Assassin's Creed Brotherhood absolutely killed the entire series dead for me because it was so fucking bad. And I think that's kind of funny because a lot of people say that's like one of the best ones. But no, Brotherhood, it felt like more of the same in a bad way. And what it did change, it changed for the fucking worst. It was absolutely awful. And it has completely killed the series for me. But I don't know, here I am several years later. When did Assassin's Creed Brotherhood come out? No, you know what? It wouldn't have been when Brotherhood came out. It would have been the year after, because I started playing Brotherhood about 2 weeks before Revelations came out, so I could be ready for Revelations. So whatever year that was, fast forward to 2020, and here I am still talking about Assassin's Creed, because this listing says that the new one is basically going to be Vikings / Norse style mythology / that kind of bullshit, because, well, they're running through everything. God of War did it, let's reboot to this too. Assassin's Creed Ragnarok seems to be the new deal. Don't know if I just don't care. I just don't care. But anyway, when you look at those teases we have coupled with the stuff that we do know, the proper ones that are coming out this year already, which is much more promising, because we have stuff like Dying Light 2, after how great Dying Light 1 was, and of course Dying Light 2 is hopefully going to be even bigger and better. Wasteland 3, Phantasy Star Online 2, Halo Infinite, Microsoft Flight Simulator. That's right, you heard me correctly, Microsoft Flight Simulator. The game with the best looking graphics ever created by the looks of it, because it looks like fucking real life. It's insane. Half-Life Alyx, of course, that could be at launch, or we don't know. The new Tales of game, Tales of Arise, big series I'm a big fan of, and kind of an indie-esque title or tier, whatever it is. You can take it for whatever you want. Ori Will of the Wisps, and of course the new Cuphead DLC. So it promises. There's obviously a couple of games that I haven't listed there too, which will come up now in a minute, but it could be a big year. Could be a big year. Unlike some of the last ones, which were just fucking dire. They had like maybe 2 or 3 decent games, 2 or 3 really good games, handful of decent games, and everything else was just completely forgettable. So hopefully this year, hopefully when they do come out, it's going to be a big one. But speaking of a big one, we're in for another probably colossal failure, flop, disaster, whatever it is. Let's call it back to Westwood Studios. Let's call it back to Maxis. Let's call it back to Visceral, among many, many others. Probably next up, which will be BioWare, but then these are probably the guys after that too. We have EA. And in typical EA fashion, where they ruin absolutely everything they touch, and they run absolutely everything into the ground, and make everything as copy and paste as possible, and there's no identity to it whatsoever, like they did with the entire Frostbite engine, where it kind of picked up and started being popular and whatnot because of Battlefield 3, and then they said, hey, let's put it into fucking everything, even though it's a disastrously, well, at the time anyway, it was a disastrously bad engine, especially when used for other certain game modes too. But woolad, you see my point, they just fucking run that shit everywhere. Vince Zampella, you might remember that name. He's basically the founder of Respawn, who originally used to work at EA a long time ago, then broke away, when he created Respawn. Now he's bought back, so he's back where he is or originally. But anyway, he's now the head of a new, or not so much a new, but another EA studio. That's right, he's in charge of 2 EA studios. That's always a great thing to do when you have to spread yourself thin on 2 major franchises or 2 major games. But DICE LA, I should say. It's hard to read these notes through this. DICE LA, since everything has to be DICE or BioWare or Frostbite or whatever it is, just to cash in on the name. But yeah, DICE LA, otherwise known as formerly Danger Close Games. You might remember Danger Close Games. They were that studio that basically made every PS2 Medal of Honor game, or made every Medal of Honor game since the PS2, I should say. All the console exclusive ones and all. Of course, they didn't make the best one, Medal of Honor Allied Assault, because of course they only make the bad ones. And of course, subsequently, thanks to EA and Make Everything Battlefield, because of course that's what they have to do, they ran the series literally to death, and now it's completely shelved. And well, strange enough, we are getting one new Medal of Honor game soon. But it's not developed by these, but I think it's developed by Respawn, actually. But anywho, back to the point here, because mostly this studio only operates as a support studio for other games. And Vince claims he wants to change the image and change what the studio is all about and all that. I say, fucking we'll see, this is EA. But as far as I know, They're not developing the new Medal of Honor VR game, which admittedly looks fucking cool. I can't wait to play that. Of course, I don't know how to get stuff like that working when, of course, you acquire it. But yeah, we'll see. That's a whole other story. But I just think this is going to go really poorly, because if he is ahead of a studio that's developing, let's just say for argument's sake, Titanfall 3, or I don't know, maybe he's in charge of fucking Apex Legends or whatever it is, but let's just go with Titanfall 3. If he's trying to manage one studio to develop Titanfall 3, and then he's trying to develop this other studio away from their just support role image, like say for example they provide like code updates and assistance, manpower and stuff for other studios when they, hey, we need to update Battlefield but we're in trouble, or we need to update Need for Speed or whatever. He wants to basically turn them into a new game studio. I don't know if he has the power to do that because it is EA and whatnot, but to try to do the two of them at the same time, that's going to go probably very, very fucking poorly. But hey, who knows? Maybe 10 years from now, we'll be here on, I don't know, episode 539 or whatever it is. And, well, actually it would be 559, given how 52 weeks and whatnot work. But who knows? Maybe 559 or 559th episode, I'll be sitting here talking about how EA and DICE LA and Respawn, Vince Zampella, they're all put out of a job, just like BioWare has happened to because of what they tried to do with Anthem 2. After the colossal flop of Anthem 2, that's right, they had the balls. You can remember, Nos Q-Damas here, I'm looking into that future. They had the balls to try and make Anthem 2, and it just completely flopped. BioWare died, and that was it. But a little bit earlier, we talked about all the upcoming teases of games, the games we know that are coming out as well. And usually the big hardcore gaming season, for lack of a better meme, is the end of the year. Maybe September, October, November, December, or just, well, the end of the year basically. Maybe October, November, December, whatever it is. And typically you have spread out in the meantime, maybe one big game a month, or one big game every 2 months or 3 months or something. And some little lower quality, lower profile games sprinkled in between. But 2020 is not really like that, because so far we have 2 months at the start that are going to be basically barren. We have about 6 or 8 months in the middle that are going to be basically barren as well. And we have a couple of months at the end, which are obviously going to be packed. But between the 2 barren months at the start and the 6 or so barren months in the middle, we have 2 months, specifically near the start, that are just a fucking deluge of what will probably be high quality games for so many people. March and April this year is going to be fucking bonkers for so many people. I mean, I have them all here, chronologically listed. Starting from the start of March, Final Fantasy VII Remake promises to be probably the biggest game of the year, March 3rd. The TurboGrafx Mini, for someone like me, March 13th. Doom Eternal, March 20th. Animal Crossing, March 20th. Resident Evil 3 Remake, April 3rd. Cyberpunk 2077, April 15th. Trials of Mana, April 24th. Gears Tactics, April 28th. And at some point in April, we don't have an exact date on it yet, but Borderlands 3 on Steam, where everyone actually gives a shit about it. So, I mean, when you look at it, that's 7 to 800 euros worth of stuff. Of course, you can probably knock about 250, 260 euro off that, because naturally, I'm getting the Final Fantasy VII Soldier First Class Edition. What would I do? Settle for like a limited edition or pleb edition? Get the fuck out of here. Who the fuck do you think I am? But, oh my god, speaking of which, I just want to get my disappointment straight across to you right now. Based on the leaked demo of Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PlayStation 4 from the PlayStation Network, I've always said, we all know the game is timed exclusive for 1 year, but I've always said it's Final Fantasy VII. I can't wait. Unless the game is 1, absolute dirt, probably not, or 2, has crippling performance issues, or a combination of the two, I can't wait. It's Final Fantasy VII. I cannot wait to play that game. I have to play it on the PlayStation 4. However, based on the leaked demos and the leaked gameplay, while admittedly I haven't watched myself, but everyone has analysed it and looked around with it and whatnot, the game, which we don't know if it's targeting PS4 Pro enhancement or if the full game will have it or whatever, 1080p 30 with performance issues. I may, despite buying this big €300 edition of Final Fantasy VII Remake on PS4, I may have to wait. I may have to wait. If it's as bad as it's made out to be, I'll judge for that myself, but yeah, it could happen. In which case, of course, I just wait a year and I play the best version of it on the glorious PC Gaming Master Race at 120 FPS and mad resolution, better quality in every single way, and, well, that's what we do. But speaking of it being a timed exclusive on PS4 for 1 year, because naturally it is a multi-platform game, I just have one specific little message for you fanboy fucks out there who like to claim this as a win, just because Sony threw all that money at Square Enix that you like to slant other people for when saying, oh, you know, it's when Microsoft do it or someone else does it, it's a bad thing, but when Sony do it, it's perfectly fine. I got one message for you fucks. Because let me tell you something right now, fanboys. You out here talking about supporting one platform, the only support you need to know about is Q playing all platforms. See, because what you're dealing with right here, right now is a real gamer. It's non-stop from this point on YouTube. I play what I want, and after I take The Last of Us Part 2 in May, I want the game, sucker. Halo Infinite, we coming for you! But that's it. That is our end of our Quack Experimental Podcast for this week. So we'll, of course, round it out with the best segment that everyone always comes here for. Q, what's the deal? What are you doing? What are you playing? What's going down? What's up? What are you playing? Well, I have pretty much almost exclusively been playing Grandia for the last maybe 2 weeks. I finally finished Grandia last night, and, well, it took me 20 years. 19 years and 10 months, because the European release of Grandia was the year 2000, March 31st, year 2000. I think it was 31st. March 2000. And here I am, January 2020, after starting the game multiple different times, finally finishing it. Turns out, from what I remember as far as I got anyway in the previous one, I actually got like 3/4 of the way through the game in my longest ever file, but this time it's finally done. Now, what's next? Well, at first I was a bit unsure. I had a little bit of a existential gaming crisis, as I do sometimes when I finish a long RPG and stuff like that. And I didn't want to go straight from Grandia to Grandia 2, or Grandia to another big JRPG, or just another big RPG. So I finally settled on Company of Heroes, a game I love, a real-time strategy game, one of the last better ones that they ever put out there. I never finished it, got really far in it. I do admit this, I do credit to its disadvantage, if you will. I credit, or discredit, whatever way you want to look at it, Company of Heroes as being the main game in the RTS series that gimped it down to be easier for the masses. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, almost every RTS before A Company of Heroes, or at least every mainstream high-profile popular one that went on to be well-received and have massive critical acclaim and sales, all of them prior to that were highlighting individual units. But ever since Company of Heroes, which was the first high-profile one that did it differently by letting you command squadrons and units and battalions, basically, or whatever it is you want, instead of one individual unit, well, that's kind of been the standard for a lot of them since then. A lot of them just kind of gimped it down to make it easier. Now, it's still a great game, and of course you can look at those comments as you want, but hey, look at Halo Wars. Thanks with stuff like Halo Wars and many, many other RTS games out there, you now don't highlight one unit a lot of the time. You just have like a squad as one unit. So, take that as you will. But hey, the game is narrated by Steve Bloom, so I'm always in for a good time. It's kind of rough going back, an early 2000s PC game. Woo lad, woo lad. But hey, it still looks better than anything on a PS4 Pro or Xbox One X. Booyah! I went there. Anyway, that is it for the next probably week or so. My Company of Heroes will probably be my exclusive playing game, and well, then we'll see how it goes from there. But that's it for episode 39 of our Quack Experimental Podcast. It's probably over nice and quick because there wasn't too much going on this month. It's to be expected with this time of year. But hey, at least I get to go back and watch more AEW and whatnot. So, in the meantime, I want to thank everyone for sticking with me as always. Let me know any comments, theories, thoughts, feels, opinions, whatever it is, on anything we mentioned here today. Leave all that stuff down in the comments section below. Hit the appropriate button to let me know I did on the video, and while you're at it, why not head on over and hit the subscribe button and even ring that little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a new video upload or a live stream or whatever is a whole other story. But hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the rest of the videos. Wait a minute, that's not my outro. Just remember that winners don't play switchboards.